Hello and welcome into another fantasy hockey video. Today I will be going over my top 5 bust potential goalies who you should probably steer clear of in this year's draft. Before I get into that though, two things. One, I ought to update the subscriber total. I really appreciate the support I've been getting lately. As you can see, I went from 300 to 317 in one day. Ridiculous to me. I really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider it. I have my next 6 videos planned in the top right. That's basically the draft week schedule. That's what I'm calling this week because a week from now, the games will have started and drafts will be over, and I'll have to make content that isn't draft related, which will still be good content. It will just be more on what's happening in the NHL, and it will have to do with fantasy, of course, and it will also have to do with stuff that isn't fantasy related as well. So if you like my takes on hockey here, you'll probably like my takes on hockey that aren't fantasy related, I think. That being said, thanks for the support as always. Let's get into my first bust, and that is my guy, Tukka Rask. And Tukka Rask is a top 5 talent goalie, but Tukka Rask is a borderline top 10 goalie, which I would steer clear of him early in your drafts for the pure fact that 16th in starts last year. I'm a points league guy. Remember that. I'm not a categories guy. Do keep that in mind. That is very important with some of these analyses. Some of them, though, apply to both, so definitely stick around because some of this will help you in categories leagues as well. He finished 8th in fantasy points last year, and there's no reason you should expect him to finish above that this year. He's probably finishing lower than that, in my opinion, because I think Halak will cut even more into his starts with the condensed schedule. There's going to be a lot of back-to-backs. Halak is a good goalie. In 29 starts last year, .920 save percentage. He's awesome when he plays Tukka, but he's 33 years old. Bruins want to keep him fresh for the playoffs, and the Bruins are still a playoff team, despite losing Krug and Chara, in my opinion. Their top 9 is too loaded, in my opinion, when fully healthy. Their right side of their defense is very good, and they have 2 very good goaltenders. They have more than enough to be a playoff team, so I expect Rask to get his rest, and because of how well Halak plays. Goalies under him, I would rather have is Carey Price, Frederik Andersen, Carter Hart, Binnington, Ilya Samsonov, and Robin Lehner, who all should probably get more starts than Tukka. And if you're in the case of Robin Lehner, you're probably on a better team than Tukka this year, and if, maybe with Carter Hart as well and Jordan Binnington. The other 3 are very debatable. That being said, let's get into my second one, which is Marc-Andre Fleury. I do not like taking backup goalies, and Marc-Andre Fleury is a backup goalie now. It's just a reality. He isn't going to do for you what he did for you in past fantasy years, which is probably why he's going as a 16th goalie off the board, because of his reputation, because of the name value that comes when you say Marc-Andre Fleury out loud. You're like, top 5, top 10 fantasy goalie, no doubt. But now is not the case. Things changed. He was 9th ranked last year. Robin Lehner, though, came in and he took his job, as they say in South Park. He's now a backup. He had a .917 save percentage and under 2 goals against in the playoffs last year for Vegas. Robin Lehner did, that is. Fleury was not great before Lehner got there with a .905 save percentage, which is very under average. He's 36. You got to stress that. This is not the same Marc-Andre Fleury it was a few years ago, and he's been showing regression. It's just reality. I hate to say that because I like Fleury a lot, but he's regressing. It happens. In a 56-game season, expect Fleury to get around 20 to 25 starts, I would think, because I think Vegas can win around him still because Vegas is a very good team. But Robin Lehner should be getting 35 starts minimum. He's that good. He's 28. It's his time, in my opinion. Better options below Marc-Andre Fleury: UC Saros, Bobrovsky, Gibson, Varlamov, and Mrazek, who should all be starters on teams that are pretty good. And the starts are big when you're in points league. So all those guys I value over Fleury this year, and you should too. And then go on to Holtby. And Holtby right now could be the Canucks starter, but why should I think he's going to keep that job? He didn't keep the job last year with Ilya Samsonov behind him, and when Holtby played, he was very piss poor, and he has been declining as well the last 3 years. Bounce back potential? Sure. I'm not betting on it, though. ADP of 103.4. There's better options below him. You can see the guys I listed down below. 2 years before that, 911, which is very run-of-the-mill. 907, very under average. 30 guys last year had a 910 or better with at least 25 games played. Demko is another thing. This guy is just lurking behind him, ready to take his job. Demko last year in the regular season was very average, under average even, 905 regular season. But if you watch him in the postseason, you see a lot of potential in this kid, and that might have been the confidence boost he needed to really, step his game up. They let Markstrom go, and they only signed Holtby for 2 years. That makes me think Vancouver wants Demko to be their number one. And the belief, if they put it behind this kid, I believe in him personally. And I don't believe in Braden Holtby because of what I've seen him done behind a Washington team the last few years, which is still a pretty solid team, and he just hasn't been that good. Rather take a guy splitting a net for a similar level team or a definite starter on a slightly worse team than taking Braden Holtby. Better options, Saros. I'd rather take Merzlikins or Korpisalo in this case. Maybe draft both and see who starts to get more starts there, because I think both those guys will put up better numbers than Braden Holtby. Bobrovsky, I think, could have a bounce back year. Gibson's playing on a worse team, but he's going to get a ton of starts. Gibson, top 10 goalie last year. Varlamov, he does have that pesky guy, Ilya Sorokin, behind him. We don't know what Sorokin is yet, though, so Varlamov, I think, is worth a flyer over a guy like Holtby. Demko, I think, might even be worth taking over Holtby, because I think the potential with Demko is higher than it was with Holtby. And when you're taking Holtby, he's probably going to be a low-tier second or high-tier third, whereas Demko, if he does get the job, has top 15 potential at least. And then you got Blackwood, who was a top 10 goalie in points leagues last year, and he's being slept on a lot because they signed Corey Crawford. But Blackwood's the goalie of the future, in my opinion. They're going to start him more. You got Cam Talbot, who's got no competition in Minnesota. He does have Kokkonen lurking behind him, but Talbot had a good bounce-back year in Calgary, and he's playing on a Minnesota team, which is pretty stingy with letting up goals. All guys I want over Holtby. I went a little off the board with some of these guys just to express how much I do not think you should draft Braden Holtby this year. Darcy Kuemper. Now, Darcy Kuemper is good when he plays. 12th goalie on average in drafts, ADP of 67.4. He was 41st in starts last year. He had an injury with a lower body injury. And that's the thing here. This guy has played over 30 games once in the last 6 years. And I believe 2 years ago it was Ronta who got injured, which opened the door for Kuemper to be the starter. And another thing is Ronta's been good when he's played too. So I fully expect with the injury history of Kuemper and the skill of Ronta that this is very much a tandem. And you're getting a tandem here on a pretty awful Coyotes team. Like, you go look at their roster on Daily Faceoff. I get all these graphics off Daily Faceoff. I take screenshots, put them in here, and talk about them. Look at their lineup and tell me that team's going to win a lot of games. It's just not going to happen. And then you have the uncertainty of health. You got Antti Raanta, who's had a .921 save percentage last year. It just isn't promising. And if you're taking a guy 12th off the board, you're expecting him to be a top 15 goalie. And I feel like that expectation is unfair to have for Kuemper, and it's a very high one. But because of how good he's been when he's played, he has this marker. But I'm not touching him because there's just too much uncertainty around him. And the Coyotes are trash. I'm a big sayer. You pick a goalie with a good team in a lot of cases. This is a terrible team, and you got a good backup behind him. There's just a lot of reasons to steer clear of Kuemper, and I'm surprised he's going on average 12th goalie. But, you know, when you got put up good save percentages and good goals against the Coyotes team that basically packs it in every night, yeah, I mean, I guess that's why, but I don't understand this. I wouldn't pick Kuemper. Better options below him. Markstrom. He's on Calgary now, which is going to be a decent team in my opinion. Grubauer, who might be the number one on one of the best teams in the league. Mrazek, who's going to be the number one on a Carolina team, which has a shot to win that Central Division. Yes, Tampa's in it. Yes, Dallas is in it. Carolina has a shot, believe me. Saros, who's in a weak Central Division and is going to take the starting job from Pekka. Gibson starts all the games. As I said, top 10 goalie last year. Gibson can do numbers on bad teams. Bobrovsky, bounce back year. I think Bobrovsky has a bounce back year. If you've seen my videos talking about goalies before, we then get into Igor Shesterkin, my other top 10 goalie. I thought I'd go out on a bang here. This doesn't have to do anything with talent, really, either. But these quotes are pretty unsettling when you're drafting goalie in the top 10. This one's from Dave Quinn, this first one. And by the way, this article is written by Vincent Z. Mercogliano. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I didn't get where he works, though, but if you type in his name and the article name, which is NY Rangers Camp Observations, Igor Shesterkin and Alexander Gorgiev, impressive tandem. All concerning things to hear when you're picking a goalie in the top 10. Dave Quinn, the quote, I don't consider this is Shesterkin himself. I don't consider myself a number one. I think we have two really good goalies who will do whatever it takes to help the team win. This guy doesn't even think he's a number one. He's very aware that Gorgiev is a decent backup. ADP for Shesterkin is 50.2. Gorgiev last year. Gorgiev is 23 years old, so this is another young goalie. 32 starts with a 9-10, which is decent for your first year in the league. Igor has played 12 NHL games in his career in the regular season and one playoff game where he didn't do that hot in the playoff game. Igor in 12 games was fantastic, though. 932, 2.52 goals against, which is where the hype comes in. I think the hype is justified the situation doesn't do it for him. Really tough division with the Bruins, Caps, Pens, Flyers, and Islanders, who are all better than the all better than the Rangers right now. That could change. Definitely could change. David Quinn sounds like he wants to split starts. I'm going to read you the quote now. In this season, every team in this league is going to have to rely on the 2 goalies. We're fortunate because we feel like we've got 2 number ones here. I'm not just saying that. Gorgie's had a good career so far. I think he's ready to take the next step, or make the next step, sorry. Shesty, in a small sample, has certainly proven that he can be a really good goalie at this level. So we feel we have great goaltending depth. And sorry for my reading there. Stumbled over that pretty badly. But, either way, you're getting a guy here who is very unproven, has one good streak in his career, which is literally just a month, literally. He had a good month. And I know he can be a top 10 goalie one day. But when you have Gorgiev behind him, who's a young goalie who's also good, if I'm the New York Rangers who are in rebuilding mode, I'm showing off both these keepers for potential trades. Yes, Shesterkin might be the guy in the future, but I need to show off Gorgiev to trade him for an asset. That way I don't lose Gorgiev for nothing, or I get less for Gorgiev. It's just a smart managerial move. And it's one of the reasons Shesterkin probably won't be a top 10 keeper this year, along with the fact you're in a tough division where wins will be hard to come by. There's just not enough on his resume to justify a top 10 selection as well, along with the situation. The better options below him are Frederik Andersen, who will be a top 10 goalie, Yari, who's a definite starter on a Penguins team, which could be pretty good this year, assuming they are fully healthy. That was their issue last year. Grubauer could be the starter on a very good Colorado team, assuming Francouz doesn't cut into him too much. Markstrom in Calgary, UC Saros in Nashville are all goalies I'd rather have over Shesterkin this year. Despite Shesterkin's undoubted talent and undoubted potential, I'm not sure this is the year for it. I think Shesterkin is more a guy for next year to draft high, not this year. That being said, that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video talking about fantasy goalies. I went pretty long for talking about only 5 players, but I feel like when you talk about bust, if you can't defend your case, you shouldn't be talking about it. And I feel like I have to really stress the reasons why and be sure in my arguments when making them to you guys, the viewers, because if I don't do that, I shouldn't be talking. Again, the background I used is the same as in the last video. Victor Hanasek, I will leave a link to his work. He takes good photographs that he lets people like me use as free backgrounds in my creative adventures. That being said, thanks again for the support the channel's been getting. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. I'll see you in the next one tomorrow. Peace.